So Karen, how did you get interested in the history of theaters?
Well, it goes back to childhood. I mean, going to the Shine Geneva Theater, which is now the Smith Opera House on Seneca Street, I thought it was a palace. I thought it was glamorous and glorious, and my parents would say, "Oh, that place is a dump," and I could never understand why. But now that I've done a little bit of exploration, I understand that in its day, it was glamorous and glorious, but by the 60s, when I was going there, it was a little shady. So, fast forward to being an adult, and I knew there was an effort to save the theater from demolition, which was successful. And I think in the 80s, late 80s, mid to late 80s, they were looking for volunteers, and I had attended a movie there, and I saw the volunteer sign-up form, and I thought, oh, this would be fun. Because as a child, I always thought that would be a wonderful job, selling popcorn and whatever. So I signed up to volunteer, and I was immediately just sucked right into the whole world of historic theaters. I found out that there was more than one theater owned by the Shine chain in Geneva. Then I found out that Shine had theaters in different cities and towns throughout New York, and then I found out that it was actually in 7 states. It was a very large theater chain, and I kind of, through the Shine connection, is where I got really involved. Some of them are real theaters, just a couple, but mostly they're the community theaters that people, went to as children, and now are bringing their children, their grandchildren, and that's what it's all about. Many of them come from, people may be familiar with Department 56. They do the Christmas villages. So a lot of them are part of those series. Some of them are mine, and some of them were graciously left to me by a friend who passed away a couple of years ago. And hers were collected really all over the world. They just come together to form a story. For example, Radio City Music Hall, everybody knows Radio City Music Hall. The Ed Sullivan Theater, that's a particular favorite of mine that did come from my friend's collection. But the other ones, by and large, are fantasy theaters, and just representative of the shared mutual experience that a lot of people have had in theaters. I love my little bear, Emilo. And he has a bit of a story. His name is Emilo because he is named after a gentleman who worked at the Shine Lockport Theater. And the really interesting thing is the Lockport Theater's marquee to this day still says Shine on the front of it. They retained that out of respect for the history of it. Even though they updated the reader boards on either side to be electronic, they kept the Shine name. But anyway, Emilo was a usher, and that was about the extent of Emilo's abilities. But he always told his managers he wanted to be a manager too. He wanted to be a theater manager. And they humored him, and they kept him along. Well, one night they received an insider tip that they were about to be raided for holding a bingo game, which at that time was considered gambling, and there was a crackdown on theaters and public places that were using these as gimmicks. So very quickly, the manager and his upper management devised a plan, and they said, Emilo, what do you want to be more than anything in the world? And they said, well, I want to be a manager, Mr. Morris. And they said, how about tonight, you're the manager? Then they all exited the theater, and about 10 o'clock that night, they got a phone call from Emilo saying, Mr. Morris, I'm in jail and I don't know why. They said, hang tight, Emilo, we'll be there in the morning. And so I just figured that was really giving your all for your love of movie theaters. And so that's why Emilo's name came to be. But he oversees my museum room, for lack of a better word, at home.